Hello, hello, hello. Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Thank you so much for watching. Hey, Mark, thank you for being there, checking the moderator. I've decided to try doing a sort of semi-daily live stream. This is a little bit of a tribute to Rob Maurer and Tesla Daily. Mark, are you there? Are we live? What are we waiting for? I don't know. Mark, can you hear me? So, yeah, I don't. Okay, good. So, first things first is just quick. Like, I don't tend to focus on short-term stock price movements, but the stock price when I last checked it was $185 a share. It's $187 a share right now, so it's up a little bit. I just wanted to make the point that people freak out about the stock price movements. And yeah, the stock is down a little bit from some peaks, but if you go back a year, the stock was trading at $195 a share. So it's not up on a year, but you know, we had a low down around 108 or something like that. So we can panic about this stuff all you want. You can say the stock hasn't moved in 3 years, but the stock has certainly moved a lot in 5 years. So I think, you know, just wanted to, you know, hit that point. I don't worry about the daily stock price, but as long as I'm doing this and as long as it's sort of an homage to Rob, I'm going to mention it. So next thing I just wanted to mention is I'm going to go through a whole bunch of brief Tesla news, and then I'm going to go through some other Elon related news, like there's some Starship news, there's a little bit of boring company news, and then there's sort of Elon whatever news. So one of YouTube's biggest off-roading channels, over 3.5 million subscribers, says that Cybertruck's performance has exceeded his expectations. If you've been watching if you watch E for Electric, I just had a back and forth with Alex from E for Electric, and he claims that Cybertruck is underwhelming. It didn't live up to statistics, whatever. People are looking for ways of criticizing anything Tesla does. And I'm friends with Alex now. I know people think that we hate each other. I'm friends with Alex now, but I disagree with him about Cybertruck. And there's other people who are trying to crap on Cybertruck. The reality is that Cybertruck is doing well. And I pointed him to the Haggerty interview, which of course, the Haggerty video on Cybertruck. And it's one of those things that I love when the people who criticize Cybertruck didn't actually, watch any of the reviews, and Haggerty was not a Tesla fan, and he went and drove Cybertruck. He loves the steer-by-wire. He loves the engineering involved in 48 volt. And so now you have, and there's been videos, a Ford F-150 Lightning had to tow a Cybertruck out of the snow. Like, that can happen to any vehicle. That can happen to a Ford F-150, and a Cybertruck might have to pull them out. Nobody's perfect, and there's going to be traction issues. Alex Guberman is E for Electric, just to be clear. So, but here it is. Here's another channel, another influencer who drove Cybertruck in whatever conditions, off-road conditions. I haven't watched the video yet, but another positive take on Cybertruck. I think Cybertruck is doing great. I think we should all be excited about it. Let me know if my mic is clipping, by the way. My software is suggesting I might be too loud. So if you guys see that, let me know. This is big news. Tesla raised Model Y prices by up to 2,500 euros in Germany. 2,000 euros for Model Y rear-wheel drive, 2,500 euros for Model Y long range, and 2,500 euros for Model Y performance. So all the talk about Tesla lowering prices and this is damaging things, the Barry Glacks of the world, the Lost Gerbers, the critics of Tesla's pricing behavior don't understand that Tesla, and they've told us this, Tesla modifies the pricing of their vehicles based on what the daily market shows. They're constantly monitoring what demand is like, what they need to do to stimulate demand, and they're constantly making changes in the pricing in order to keep up with what the demand is. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Mark. So if you see the price going up, what that means is there's a surge in demand. And there's some other good news on this point. Bradford Ferguson, first post is a little off. Second post is more accurate. He said for the first 5 weeks of this quarter, Giga Texas produced roughly 20,000 to 22,000 Model Ys. He corrected it to 18 to 20,000. This is dramatically up from the first 5 weeks of the previous 2 quarters, where they did 10 to 12,000 Model Y. So Giga Texas is increased production. And you know, so Tesla may have reduced Model Y prices in the US because they have increased supply, but they're delivering higher volumes. And it's a reasonable guess that if they're increasing volumes, that means they've figured out some manufacturing efficiencies, and you're manufacturing at higher volume, you're going to end up lowering your cost per unit. When you do higher volumes, your cost per unit goes down. They may have figured out some tricks to, you know, some engineering improvements to manufacture the vehicles at lower cost, make better vehicles, and so on and so forth. And if that's the case, that may be why they've increased production and lowered prices. So I think that's some really good news. Little update, you know, not a lot of people follow Powerwall, but Tesla has a new Powerwall, next generation Powerwall 3, $6,000, including 30% federal tax credit. So I guess it's actually probably closer to $8,000 or $9,000, but when you take out the tax credit, it's $6,000. Same as Powerwall 2, not including install. What I saw with Tesla, when you try to configure solar install on your house and you add Powerwall, then there's a discount. And then the second Powerwall is less than the first Powerwall. So I'm not sure how this pricing works out overall. Some improvements, the solar inverter is directly integrated. This it allows you up to 6 solar inputs, and it I believe it eases installation. On-grid power, 11.5 kilowatts continuous. Backup power, 11.5 kilowatts continuous. 11.5 kilowatts is pretty substantial. I think this means basically it can power your home air conditioner. Now flood resist over 2 feet. System expansion, 287 pounds at 16% lighter. Dimensions are different. It's cheaper for Tesla to make and easier to install than Powerwall 2. So this is positive. It's, you know, one of the big holdups with Powerwall is that Powerwall is typically installed with solar installations, and solar installations are down because of high interest rates. People who are buying solar or installing solar on their homes are typically financing them. So if interest rates are high, it's harder to justify the cost. And once interest rates come down, if they ever come down, that will lower the cost of solar installs, and you're going to like the monthly cost of solar installs, and you'll see more solar installs. Just want to brag. So 8 months ago or so, I did a video, something like "Don't Get Cocky, Kid" was the title. When Tesla stock was near $250, people were going off and, you know, how great it was. And I said, don't get cocky. This is a line from the Star Wars movie. I think it's Star Wars, where Luke gets a TIE fighter and Harrison Ford yells at him. Han Solo yells at him, "Don't get cocky, kid." And I said, hey, you know, don't get carried away here. And I don't remember the details of the video. I probably discouraged options trading, you know, buying, you know, options or whatever on big jumps. And, you know, the stock has retreated from that point. I'm not claiming I'm brilliant. I don't like making predictions, but I think I got that one roughly right, that people were getting a little carried away there. So this is a highlight for everyone. It's not $6,000 laying 10. It's $6,000 after the federal tax credit. So it's probably closer to $9,000. So Dan O'Doodoo, everyone's favorite Tesla hater, everyone's favorite Elon hater, Dan O'Doodoo got a letter from the National Transportation Safety Board. It has come to our attention that your second Super Bowl commercial airing on February 11th prominently and unlawfully displays the official seal of the National Transportation Safety Board. The commercial has been posted to your webpage and to your YouTube page. By federal law, the NTSB has authorized the seal. Use of the seal outside of the NTSB is prohibited without the prior written approval of the NTSB. You did not obtain, and the NTSB did not grant permission to use the seal in your commercial or any other materials. Spuriously implies endorsement of your company and or message by the NTSB. Accordingly, the NTSB demands that you cease any further unsanctioned use of the seal, that the NTSB seal be immediately removed from your website and YouTube page, as well as any further airings of the offending commercial. We further request that you notify us in writing when all changes have been made. Now, some people have asked me, is he going to be prosecuted? Holmar's blog suggested he's going to get 5 years in federal prison. I think these results are unlikely. I think the Biden administration in particular is unlikely to prosecute Dan O'Dowd. For those who don't know, by the way, Dan O'Dowd is this cranky old man. The old man yells at cloud, who hates Tesla FSD. and he's been spending millions of dollars bashing Tesla FSD, and he bragged about spending, I don't know, $500,000 or something, like airing Super Bowl commercials. And you're like, wait a minute, $500,000? I thought a commercial was, Super Bowl commercial was $7 million. Well, he aired them in the all-important markets of like Traverse City, Michigan, and Dover, Delaware. I don't know. He's a little bit of a nut job, but he has, he's been bashing Tesla and he's been bashing FSD for a while. And Tesla did send him a cease and desist letter. We'll see if he acts on that. We'll see if they act on that. So, shifting away from Tesla news for a moment, I'll just see. Daryl says, when we're talking about monumental changes to humanity in terms of FSD, Optimus, etc., taking long periods of time to be realized should be expected. Yeah, I'm wearing the Turn Impossible into Late t-shirt. This is a quote from Elon that SpaceX specializes in turning the impossible into merely late. So, that is what Elon's companies do. They turn the impossible into late. So, speaking of impossible and late, thank you so much, 472 Water. Estimate years for Robotaxi, bull, bear, middle. I don't think about it in terms of bull, bear, middle. I would estimate that Robotaxi, bull is this year. Bear is 10 years. And middle is, 3-4 years. But, my take on it is, if you're looking out to 2030 and you're saying, what's the valuation of Tesla in 2030? As long as they deliver full self-driving, we're in 2024 now. So if 2027 FSD is working and the Robotaxi network starts, and in 2030 Tesla has 10 million Robotaxis in its own fleet, which is certainly viable, you get the same result. And push it out to 2031. Does anyone really care if it takes till 2031 to 25x the value of Tesla? I don't think so. So that's why you have to be in it for the long game and not worried about short terms and not worried whether you're buying stock at 150 or 200 or 250. I buy the stock when not financial advice, disclaimer. I buy the stock when I have free cash that have available. I don't really worry what the price is at the moment. If I have free cash available, I buy the stock. And I'm not buying every week, anything like that. Like, I have a pile of cash right now that's not available because I'm living a certain life and I need to be ready. The Tesla Yogi said, Kimball said in his recent interview, Robotaxi is roughly 5 years away. I don't know how Kimball knows that. I don't know how anybody knows that. From what I can see with version 12, the thing that's going to lead to Robotaxi and full self-driving is more data, more compute. And the more cars they put on the road, the more data they generate, the more compute they put out there, the more training that the software gets. We can't really know. It could be this year, it could be next year, it could be 5 years. That kind of was financial. And no, that's just saying what I do, Hopper. I'm not telling you what to do. But people talk about dollar cost averaging, and I don't think dollar cost averaging is bad. If you have a steady flow of cash, then dollar cost averaging makes sense. But if you have a pile of cash and you decide, well, I'm going to wait, and then the stock goes up and you missed out, then how are you going to feel? For me, it's like I never know when the stock's going to go up. I never know when the stock's going to go down. I know what I think is going to happen to the stock in the long term, and you never know. If the switch, let's suppose you didn't buy the stock because you were dollar cost averaging or waiting for a dip, and then 6 weeks from now, they hit some major improvement in FSD, and they say, we're taking the nags away, right? Stock's probably going to go up. There's a really good chance if they actually nail FSD, the stock's going to go up, and we can't know when it's going to happen. Am I retired? I'm sort of semi-retired. I don't know. I'm retired as a lawyer. I think you could call this work. I don't know. I have a startup company that I'm working on starting, so I don't know if I'd call this retired. Decades ago, the oil companies lobbied to get exploration liability caps for oil spills and the like. Tesla will need to do similar. No, we don't need liability caps for Robotaxi. Tesla can afford the damages in a car accident. There's going to be fewer accidents than there are regular cars. Tesla's a $1 trillion company. A bad personal injury case is $1 million. Tesla has 1 million times that much money. What's the big deal? Not in cash, right? One theory is Kimball was just speaking out of his 10-gallon hat. Another theory is Kimball was leaking it'd be 5 years, especially given official. Well, so, before widespread Robotaxi, yeah, it's at least 5 years. Before Robotaxi operating somewhere, I think 5 years would be a surprise. Isn't Tesla obliged to give reasonably accurate guidance on the products that we know are happening? No. Well, first of all, I don't know what you mean by guidance. I don't know what you mean, future products? No, I mean, I think if they give guidance, they're required to be reasonably accurate to the extent that they can be. But anyway, all right, so Starship is fully stacked. And Elon was asked, or sorry, Tesla owner Silicon Valley, I think this is John, posted an image and says Starship is the largest and most powerful rocket ever built. And Elon says it will be at least 10 to 15 meters longer by version 3. So they are planning a future version of Starship that will be 10 to 15 meters longer. If you want the history of my YouTube channel, Elon had said, I don't know, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, more than 4 years ago, he had said that there was a future version of Starship coming that would be 18 meters in diameter. The current one is 9 meters in diameter. I think he has backed off the 18-meter Starship, and he's gone with this is large enough diameter, and they can get more out of it by going longer. But I just wanted to mention this. Him talking about Starship is the thing that got me going on making YouTube videos about these topics. And then the last thing is, Elon, where my rocket ship? Kanye West wants to know about the rocket ship. Elon says starships were meant to fly. I think this is a reference to a Nicki Minaj song. I don't know. And our next one launches in about 3 weeks. But I recommend waiting for a few more test flights before hopping on board. So now we have a prediction that Starship will fly in about 3 weeks. Good to see. I think we're probably going to make orbit. We're probably going to see a soft water landing of the booster. We're probably not going to see a soft water landing of the Starship, but we'll see. So didn't Kimball say it was already working, but without a steering wheel will be 5 years? I didn't see what Kimball said. I probably should go look for what Kimball said. Can you comment on Delaware ruling and advantage to relocating in Texas? That's coming. I'm going to be talking about that not too long from now. So I'll cover it right now since you mentioned it. No, that's not it. Okay, so there was talk about Delaware. Elon's posted, when move your company out of Delaware before they lock the doors, just so they did with TripAdvisor. So let's talk about that. I believe that Tesla is planning to relocate their corporate filing to Texas. Neuralink is in, I think, Nevada. Neuralink is Nevada. Boring Company's in Nevada. It looks like Tesla's going to incorporate in Texas. We'll see about that. The advantage to relocating in Texas, to me, the advantage, and I made a video about this already, is Tesla is stuck with a bad judge. It's likely that if there's another case against Tesla that relates to anything to do with corporate securities, whatever, the same kind of topic, it's likely they're going to get stuck with the same judge again. So you can't, there's not really a good way of getting Delaware to assign a different judge to the case. But if you move your incorporation to a different state, then you're going to get a different judge. Now, I'm not sure that's a solution. If the judge's ruling stands, they're probably going to appeal it. But if the judge's ruling stands or something close to it stands, then when it gets into a Texas court, there's a significant risk that a Texas judge is going to say, well, the Delaware judge already ruled on this, and I don't see a reason to differ from her. Now, maybe you'll get a judge who says, I don't like the way she ruled, and he goes a different way, but there's a tendency for judges to do what judges did before. That's the way, as lawyers, we are trained. That's the way they do things. Warren, huge law firms will find class action gross negligence against Tesla if there isn't liability caps. I don't think you understand Marriage Partners Ministry. If someone is injured in a car accident, they sue whoever's at fault for the accident. I don't know what what would the class action be? If someone's injured in a car accident, their damages are usually more. Class action lawsuits are when people have small damages. When you are injured in a car accident, you have a serious injury and it's worth tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, you don't do a class action, you hire a lawyer, the lawyer sues for you, and you get money. The class action plaintiffs don't get very much money. There's no class action for, I don't see where the class, I think people don't understand class action lawsuits, and maybe we should talk about that at some point, but I don't think there's a class action issue. Will any of Elon's companies become publicly traded? Can we make money on them? Possibly. I don't anticipate. I think Starlink may IPO in a year or two, and you would be able to buy stock in that. I don't expect Boring Company to IPO anytime soon. I don't expect Neuralink to IPO anytime soon. I don't expect SpaceX itself to IPO anytime soon. XAI unlikely. So if you are a, what is it called? A qualified or accredited investor, and which means you have basically like $2 million net worth. I think there's another way. Maybe it's a $250,000 net income, then I think you can buy in through shares post or equities in. There are sometimes offerings to buy SpaceX or Boring Company stock. There's no impeaching a judge for this. That you don't impeach a judge because you don't like their ruling. It's not how it works. How about Elon moves Tesla to Australia to teach your government a big lesson? I don't think Australia is necessarily favorable corporate jurisdiction. Shareholders could vote on a new incentive package that also rewards the older package to Elon immediately and its new vote. So in Texas, it's likely to pass muster. So I am concerned that Tesla trying to award Elon stock, whatever way they try to do it, number one, will shareholders vote for it? I think shareholders probably will vote for it. But will a judge approve it? And then do you really want to find out 5 years later that the judge said no? That's just a really uncomfortable situation for Elon, and I wish I had a better answer for it. After Delaware, anything could happen in a class action lawsuit. No, not anything could happen in a class action lawsuit. Chris E says, with a serious injury, I've seen lawyers follow the MFG with the most money. Do you think that's correct? Yeah, no, look, if I'm injured in a car, if you call me, you're injured in a car accident, and the person who hit you has a $25,000 auto insurance policy, and we think autopilot was involved, then I'd much rather sue Tesla, which has $1 trillion market cap, than sue. Now, you have to have a serious injury, right? You have to have an injury that's worth a lot more than $25,000, because suing Tesla is going to be a lot more expensive than suing the guy in the car, the regular guy in the car accident. So is Elon sandbagging Cybertruck? I think he might be sandbagging Cybertruck, but I don't think I'm covering that today. We could talk about that more. So more Elon news. Elon posted this, and in an ongoing effort to annoy people and make people unhappy that Elon is picking fights with people. Elon is making fun of Disney by turning the Mickey Mouse thing upside. He didn't create this. He stole this from somebody else. But these nuts. So Jim Whitehead says, how can one shareholder with 9 frigging shares be a class that overrules almost 1 billion shares that voted for it? It's so wrong. Okay, so the shareholder with 9 shares is not the class. He's what's called the representative plaintiff, or the named plaintiff, or whatever it is. I never did class action law. I never handled a class action case in my life. It is the way class action law is, and Elon has been criticizing class action law for years, and nobody did anything. And the lawyers who are behind class action lawsuits have a lot of influence with, they basically buy members of Congress, they buy members of state legislatures, and that's why class action lawsuits continue. And the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and other groups have said, hey, we ought to scale back these class action lawsuits, and politicians never support it because there's class action lawyers giving them too much money. And the defense lawyers on the class action lawsuits, they're perfectly happy to continue having them because they make money too. So, good news about X. Super Bowl on X had 1.1 billion video views, 10.5 billion impressions, 19.2 million posts, 4.8. Elon said more posts were viewed on this platform over Super Bowl than there are humans on the planet. I think he probably means there were more impressions. I don't think there were like 8 billion posts, but there were 10.5 billion impressions. I think that's what he's referring to. So X is doing well. If you don't follow me on X already, please consider following me on X. It's WR4NYGOV, and I post on there a lot. I've been more active on X than I have been on YouTube. I think I'm going to start being more active on YouTube again. I'm kind of hitting a rhythm in my life, and I feel like this is a good angle, so I'm going to try to do this kind of live stream on a almost daily basis. Again, an homage to Rob Maurer, who's gone. And, this isn't, I'm not limiting it to Tesla. I'm not going to go in depth on what's going on in the markets that's affecting Tesla stock on a daily basis. But yeah. So on, the political side, Elon is being criticized for urging Congress to not support Ukraine funding. Elon said there has been no change in the Russia-Ukraine border for a year, just lots of dead kids. The United States is basically, I don't want to get too political here, but it's pretty apparent that the United States has played a major role in keeping the war going. People think there's some sort of magical solution where Russia gets out of Ukraine and it all goes away. It doesn't appear we're getting there. And you can argue back and forth, and I'm sure some people hate Russia and some people criticize Ukraine or whatever it is. I think Elon has a valid, and I have my opinion, which I'm not going to get into here, but I think Elon at least has a valid point here that what exactly are we trying to accomplish here? What exactly is the plan? We're going to keep funding this war, and more Ukrainian kids are going to die, and more Russian kids are going to die. Apparently, somebody said that like the average age of the soldiers is now like 43 years old. So lots of young men are dying. Lots of young women in Ukraine and Russia will now have a harder time finding a husband because so many young men are dying. I guess if you're looking for, I'm in Thailand, found a girlfriend here. If you're looking for a place to find women where there's not enough men, I'm guessing Ukraine and Russia are looking promising in the future. But I don't. Mark Potocnik says we can knock YouTube, but I spend all day on YouTube. I spend some time on YouTube. I'm on X more than I'm on YouTube. I think if you really get into X and you start being more active on X, you're going to find that X is better. There's certain things I like watching NBA highlights, so I watch NBA highlights on YouTube. I don't really follow X for any. I don't really stay on YouTube for much else. It's there are some good long form videos on X, like strength training stuff and cardio training and health stuff. I do watch videos on that on X. But I get all my news about Tesla and SpaceX and everything on X. I don't get it on YouTube anymore. I appreciate people who are on here, and I'm gonna post this video later on X. At some point, maybe I'll be live streaming on X more, but I find that this is a better platform for live streaming. What about a new rule voted by shareholders that disallows class action suits? I don't think shareholders have the power to disallow class action lawsuits. That's a nice idea. Any government is inefficient with money. How does X audit confirm those post-impression numbers? I have no idea how they do that. So there's this post about climate change. Elon tweets farming has no material effect on climate change. This guy, Max Roser, who runs some climate website, criticizes Elon, saying that farming is a quarter of the world's greenhouse gases. And Omar says, oh, well, let's all stop eating. Like, we kind of need farming, right? Like, I personally eat food, 3 times a day, sometimes 4. And my food pretty much comes from farms in some way or other. So I don't know how you're going to stop farming. I don't know what the plan is, but Elon says, and seriously, what an idiot. All that actually matters is how many billions of tons of carbon are moved from underground to the atmosphere. Everything else is immaterial. Solve sustainable energy on the surface, and you solve it all. Solar, wind, nuclear, geothermal, and of course, EVs instead of gas cars, and you make a huge difference on any concerns about climate. I just wanted to mention that I looked this guy up, this Max Roser guy, and the chair, his operation is funded by, among others, Bill and Melinda Gates. Bill Gates, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Bill Gates, we know, is a serious Elon hater. And then there's this other group that is run by fossil fuel billionaires that is funding a climate change group. Yeah, maybe the guy isn't, I guess the fossil fuel billionaires want to point to farming because they don't want to address fossil fuels. I don't know. So John Carmack, just wanted to mention this one. Elon, just to show you, Elon replied to this and said it was interesting. So I'll just cover this. Every solar panel is like a giant pixel in a camera sensor turning photons into voltage. With billions of them across the world, it's interesting to see what they could collectively see of the sun and atmosphere, even though they have no focusing machinery. Conversely, I wonder if an ultra-low power camera sensor could ever be designed to self-power from the light it is detecting. Specialization of function is almost always optimal, but an open mind about possible functional overlap occasionally gives us surprises. So it's an interesting question. If you were somehow able to network all the solar panels and you were able to monitor the voltage they're getting from turning photons into voltage, could you somehow turn that into a monster camera, like a billion, gigapixel camera? It's an interesting idea. And then, could you have a camera that's designed to power from that generates electricity from the photons coming in, from the light that comes in, and then powers itself? Carmack is the guy who created the video game Doom, Castle Wolfenstein 3D. I think it's id Software, a lot of first-person shooter games, and he's done a lot more, of course. So, we didn't cover this one yet. So, Wall Street Silver was talking about the interest on debt is exploding, up 37% from a year. It costs over $1 trillion. We're spending over $1 trillion a year on debt payments, maybe on the interest payments on the debt. And it'll be over $3 trillion annually in less than a decade. So, to some extent, there's going to be pressure on the Federal Reserve to bring interest rates down so that the federal government can afford to pay its debt. So if you're looking for reasons for hope for Tesla, if the Federal Reserve decides to bring interest rates down just to solve this problem, then interest rates will come down and the car payments will come down and more people will buy cars. And Elon just said national debt growth is unsustainable. I've been saying this for probably more than a decade. And, every time, whenever you see a member of Congress or a politician say, oh, we got to cut taxes, it's like, look, the real demon is spending, right? The real demon is spending. Because you can cut taxes all you want. If you don't cut spending, you haven't solved any problems because you got to get the money from somewhere. So you print it or you do something else, right? You borrow it or you print it. So whenever you see, like, I pick on Republicans a lot because Republicans, and usually lately I've been criticizing Democrats a lot, but the practical reality is Republican presidents, Republican Congresses have massively increased federal spending. Ronald Reagan doubles federal spending and tripled the debt. He's a hero of Republicans. And George Bush massively increased spending and Donald Trump massively increased spending. So I want to see a Republican, if a Republican gets in the White House, show me when a Republican actually, holds back on spending. Because they don't. They just spend on the stuff they want to spend on. Boring company news. I'm not advocating for the Democrats, by the way. I'm just saying the Republicans could be a lot better. I vote libertarian when I can, generally. Just really quick on the Boring Company, just a nice little post here that they're working with Clark County Fire Department. Clark County is the county that Las Vegas sits in, and they're doing drills to make sure that the firefighting team is ready to handle any kind of emergency in the tunnels. That's good to see. There's some reports that Boring Company is making more progress in Vegas. I think there was a post from Elon that I didn't find before I did this video that they're up to, he expects it to ultimately be 100 miles of tunnel under Vegas, and it's going to be an awesome system. So, and then one last thing here. This is from Buyan Tungus, who I follow. At the beginning of this new era, there's about $1 trillion. This is from NVIDIA's CEO. There's about $1 trillion worth of installed base of data centers. Over the course of the next 4 or 5 years, we'll have $2 trillion worth of data centers that will be powering software around the world. And Elon asked the question, what will all that AI do? Now, I think this is real. There's an answer to this question. I think Andre Karpathy answered this question, that software 2.0 will eat software 1.0. That neural net software, AI-based software, will basically replace existing software. Will it come up with new software applications? Of course, but I think really just doing a better job of what existing software does is a big chunk of it. Please consider doing a talk with Mario Maneko 64 regarding mining and Tesla. Have him send me a message. I don't know who that is. I don't know how to find him. I get those comments a lot. Hey, you should talk to so-and-so. Have him reach out to me or send us both an email. I'm wredlich@gmail.com. WREDLICH@gmail.com. We're at $185 a share right now? Okay. The solar panel said your baby is ugly. Very nice, Erie. Natural gas prices collapsing. Interesting. Elon is more liked. He's not a nerd, kind of like Mark Cuban. One theory is that climate change people like Gates are wannabe one world government dictators and farmers are holdouts with guns against dictators. Well, that's pretty much true. I mean, Gates is a part of a group. I don't know, but dictators, they are, there's an elite class that, meets at these, Davos events, and they fly in on their private jets and tell everybody else to cut their CO2 emissions, and they eat like fancy steaks at these events, and they tell us all we should be eating bugs. And then the farmers are not happy with it. And there's farmers around the world. We've seen farmers in Canada upset, farmers in Europe upset. I think Sri Lanka, look at what happened in Sri Lanka, how they screwed over the farmers and screwed everything up. Erie says, don't forget to remove all the CO2 already in the atmosphere. We don't want to remove all the CO2. There's a theory that we might want to reduce some of the CO2. Why does Bill Gates hate him so much? I think Gates probably is jealous. It's my best guess. When farming involves tearing down rainforests and use of dangerous chemicals, then that's a bad thing. Farming has probably always used dangerous chemicals, and there's always been some tearing down forests. I don't think that Brazilian rainforest, you can criticize, why isn't Bill Gates buying Brazilian rainforest and protecting it instead of buying American farmland? He's buying American farmland and making a profit on farming and then telling other people that they should, then he's funding somebody who's saying that farming is causing climate change. Why doesn't Bill Gates buy up the rainforest and protect it? And Addison says, people keep talking about $25,000 Tesla. Meanwhile, I've seen some used 2020 Model 3s selling for that now on Tesla website. I'm considering a used Model 3 from the Tesla website. From what I heard, I think Omar just posted about like a $20,000 used Model 3, and then maybe it was a $24,000 used Model 3, and you get a $4,000 tax credit for a used Model 3. If it's under $25,000, maybe you get a $4,000 tax credit. So yeah, I would look at that, see if you qualify for the tax credit, and then it's an even better deal. And I'll just say personally, like, you know, I still own a 2018 Model 3. It's pretty good. I think the 2020, 2021 Model 3s are awesome. The 2021 long range Model 3, if you can pull that one off, that's a really, because I think that's, you get the 353 miles of range. Last year, Zach Kirkhorn said 2024 cost of goods sold will decrease. Do you predict this is significant? Well, you know, lithium's down. A lot of raw materials costs are down. So, and then they're improving their manufacturing. So you would expect, as long as they're increasing volume, then yeah, I would expect cost of goods sold to decrease. Also, you're shifting from Model S and X to Model 3 and Y. Still, you know, as Y grows and 3 grows compared to S and X are the high cost versions. So the high cost vehicles. So as you shift to the lower cost vehicles, then the cost of goods sold goes down. Cybertruck is going to increase cost of goods sold, but it's a low volume vehicle right now. As Cybertruck scales, that's going to drive cost of goods sold back up. But that's on an average basis. I expect that the cost of goods sold of the Model Y is going to continue to decline, especially, like I said, with the decline in the price of lithium. And I think there are other raw materials that are going into the cars that are declining in cost. I would buy Brazilian bush. Very nice. Brazilian bush. Isn't it shaved off? Plant-based meat will kill much farming. I'm hopeful that plant-based meat will make progress. I like Beyond Meat. I've eaten Beyond Meat products, Impossible Foods products. I do think they're good. There's also cell-based meat. I think that someone is going to crack that nut in the next 10 years. And, you know, if they can. Now, with that said, as I'm now on a strength training kick, I believe that animal proteins are fundamentally better for strength training than plant-based proteins. I'm not sure how much of a full-on replacement plant-based proteins are in the long run for my health goals. I do eat some plant-based proteins, by the way. But I think that I don't think you can. I think there's going to be a lot of people who are still going to want meat-based proteins. Now, the lab-based meats are going to be animal proteins. So I think that you may solve the problem from both angles. So I think there's a lot of potential there. All right. Let me just look back and see if I missed any comments. Let's see. Same thing happened in Vietnam. The U.S. dumped weapons to inspire the purchase of new weapons, making the manufacturers rich. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that one of the reasons that we're funding all these wars is to fund American defense industry, the military-industrial complex. I made a comment on X not that long ago about the education textbook industrial complex. You know, why do we have new math textbooks? Why don't they just copy the old ones? Did something change in calculus in the last 100 years that meant that we need new textbooks? Or algebra? Like, algebra and calculus are more than 100 years old. Why can't we use 100-year-olds use out of copyright textbooks? Like, if I was on a school board, I would say, hey, let's just find an out of copyright math textbook and just copy it. Let's just find out of copyright math textbooks and just copy them because they're out of copyright. And then the textbooks are free, or effectively free. Plants like trees. Yeah, you need some CO2 in the atmosphere, just to be clear. All right, let's see. Yeah, good point. Thank you for mentioning that, Mark. Tesla indicated that Model Y Juniper refresh not coming soon to North America. There's been reports of a Model Y refresh. I've been skeptical of that, just like I was skeptical of Model 3 refresh. I was wrong when I said there wasn't going to be a Model 3 refresh at all. I was now proven correct that it was not called Highland. But there's been some reports that there's a Model Y refresh. I mean, Model Y is like 3 years old. I don't think a refresh is necessary. maybe there's one coming at some point, but it's just like really what needs to happen is the next gen vehicle needs to come, and then they need to re-engineer 3 and Y both, and S and X, or at least X. Travis says Tesla doesn't want to actively pursue advertising, put it in the hands of the consumers, hold a competition, much like Doritos crashed the Super Bowl, let consumers make content for you at almost zero cost. So lots of people are making Tesla ads, effectively Tesla ads. Tesla is actively advertising. They're advertising on X, they're advertising on YouTube, they're advertising in Haneda Airport in Japan. They're looking at different angles of advertising, trying to figure out if they can find a way to advertise that makes sense monetarily. The danger is that if you advertise and you don't generate enough, there's good ad campaigns and there's bad ad campaigns, and there's good targeting and bad targeting. And if you do it wrong, you spend a lot of money without much effect. Jim Whitehead says the Impossible Burger at Burger King flopped. It was priced higher and few even tried it. I actually got the Impossible Whopper and I liked it. And I've had other restaurants. I'm trying to remember what was the one. There's one in Florida that I went to that had I think they had a Beyond Burger or whatever, and I like them both. Marriage Partners Ministry. Warren, damage is awarded only when there's an accident, but billions awarded in punitive damages when there's constructive knowledge and deficiency. Marriage Partners Ministry, you're just making shit up. I realize you like to think you know what you're talking about, but I think I know a little bit more about law than you do, and there's no punitive damages here. There's no class action lawsuit over car accidents and robotaxi, and there's no punitive damages. You're just imagining shit. Somebody's injured in a car accident, they got a viable claim. Why would they submit to a class action? Get rid of the chemicals, go organic, the food is the same. There's some advantages to some chemicals. We've been using chemicals in farming for, hundreds of years. Nitrogen fixing fertilizer is one of the things that allowed humanity the population to grow without starving everybody. So, don't, there's value in chemicals. Some of them are good. Kimball did not say that. He said no steering wheels in the robotaxi would take about 5 years. I think Kimball might be wrong, but who knows? New math. Joe collects $1,000 a month on welfare. Mary collects $2,000 a month on welfare. How much do they collect together? Answer, nothing. They don't qualify. Yeah, my whole thing on the immigration thing, by the way, just on a tangent here, is if I want to visit my daughter in New York City, I'm going to spend like $400 a night in a hotel. I'm going to spend all this money on food. But if I fly to Mexico, I walk across the border and I say, yo quiero asilo, I'll get a free hotel room in New York City and 3 meals a day, and I think they even give you cash. This is like, Elon's been criticizing the immigration policy, and a lot of people are criticizing the immigration policy, and they're all talking about how the Border Patrol should do more to remove people. It's like, how about we just stop fucking giving them free stuff? Can we just stop giving them free stuff? Like, put some tents up on the Texas border, give them food, give them some like beans and rice and water, and that's it. They're going to stop coming. They're not going to come. If you're going to give them like free hotel rooms in Manhattan and free food and money, like free meals, like why the hell wouldn't they come? So how about we just like set up some refugee camps and hey, anybody cross the border, here you go. And, they're not going to come for that. You'll cut migration in half easy if you do that. Bill wants to make all of our food in a biolab out of sewer sludge. Yeah, the Impossible Burger with bacon. I've had the Impossible Burger with bacon. It is awesome. Actually, I think I got the Beyond Burger with bacon at whatever the burger place is, and not Five Guys. It's a different place in Florida. Have you gone to a Tesla store in Thailand? Yeah, I've been to the Tesla store in Siam Paragon 3 or 4 times. I was actually in the mall today, but I didn't go to the store. I think I was in the mall twice today and I didn't go to the store. I live really close to that store. But, there's not much point in me going back. There's a Model Y and there's a Model 3 and they haven't moved. So, an Impossible Burger the Tesla Fat Cafe would call the late burger. Thank you, Robert Hirsch. Robert Hirsch. I love it. I love it. Is pandering automatically illegitimate? I don't know what you mean. Okay, so we've gone 45 minutes. I intended to go 30 minutes. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Really appreciate the moderators, Jim and Mark. I don't know if any other moderators are there, but I noticed Jim and Mark were there. Please check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. Please follow me on the X platform, WR4NYGov. Please consider supporting me as a YouTube channel member, as a subscriber on the X platform, on the Daily Lie, or on Patreon. Any support is appreciated. And I think this went well today. I'm going to try to do this on a at least nearly daily basis. So we'll call it the Elon Not Quite Daily or something like that. Thanks, everybody, so much. Thank you again, Mark and Jim. All right, bye-bye.